So today we have a class on. You can see we have about 5 or 6 people, and sometimes the people on the class bring interesting trees. So this tree has been grown. Can you tell me the history about this?
I bought it in a supermarket in France as a little tiny plant like that.
How many years ago?
15, 16 years.
15 years you've been growing this.
Yeah.
And you've just put it in a pot. Have you done any shaping, wiring?
No.
So, in fact, when I started doing bonsai or joined the clubs back in the early 70s, 1974 to be precise, much of what was done or passed off as bonsai was simply conifers planted in dishes like this, and they call them bonsai. But without insulting you, we know that this is not what we call bonsai. This is just a conifer in a pot. And for a start, I think you need to take care of it by occasionally cleaning the insides. If you don't clean the insides, it gets congested and there's no air able to get in, and the insides will progressively die. So that's the first thing you need to do. It is quite healthy, but you need to do that to keep it healthy. Now, because you've never done anything to it, let's make it look more like a tree. Those of you who follow me on the YouTube will be familiar with the expression I use, that the tree looks like a blob. Blob means just a lump. So this is what we call a blob. Mr. Blobby is not a bonsai. But even in this condition, there is always a front and a back of the tree. If I can just put it on a turntable, I'll show you exactly what I mean. So, every tree has a more interesting side. If you turn the tree around, the main thing to look for is the trunk. I always remind people that what distinguishes a bonsai from a bush or a shrub is that a bonsai is a miniature tree, and being a tree, it should have a visible trunk. So this side, I think I can see the trunk better if you go in from there. Whereas from this side, see, this side is not very good. You're only seeing one trunk. This side is okay, but it's not as interesting as the other side. So straight away, I will have taken the decision to use this as the front. Do I have a free hand to do what I want to do, sir?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so you've got to trust me.
Chainsaw, if you like.
No, it's too small for a chainsaw. And we may not be able to repot it. That pot could be a better pot. Now, in order to show the front of the tree, I'm going to do some quite drastic pruning to reveal the trunk. So, first thing I do is I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove this as well. Straight away you can see the trunk. Can you not?
Yeah.
These are very fundamental principles for bonsai. Showing the trunk is the key to making a shrub look like a tree. Straight away you've seen the trunk, so it's beginning to look like a tree. What about the usable branches? We prefer to use branches which are thin rather than thick. If I use this as a branch, the proportion between this thick branch and the trunk is not so pronounced, and therefore the trunk won't look as thick. Whereas if I use thinner branches, then the trunk will look thicker. Does it make sense? So I want the tree to have horizontal pads. Now this one is sprouting up, I don't need that.
You've never done that, would you?
I wouldn't.
Beginning to see the tree, because you can see the trunk. Right? Now we got to think of some of the other bits in here.
It's going to triple the price now.
I've done this before, that's why I have the confidence. If you've not done it before, don't attempt it without guidance because you can end up with nothing. By the way, I don't give refunds. See, this has not been getting light, so the ends are
cut that one off.
dying. Lack of light. Are you keeping it against the wall?
Yeah, it's on a patio. Yeah, yeah, with the other trees I've got.
It's going to be on the
Yeah, I think so.
So these are going to be our pads, okay? You remember I was referring to pads?
Yeah.
This branch will come again. Tips are live. Trying to reposition. I don't know why people like to put gravel on top of the trees. It's more important to show the roots than to hide the roots. Okay. And then I'm going to try and create some pads from this area. Where's my...
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't have the nerve to do it
No.
yourself, would you? Yeah.
Give me anxiety watching it.
Yeah.
One of the great fascinations of bonsai is that it is a problem-solving exercise. I keep reminding people that whenever you get a complicated tree, it's like being faced with a problem and your job is to find the solution to the problem. So you've got to have some ideas to what you want to achieve, and then you will
Yeah.
devise the ways and means to achieve that end. Okay, so these are going to be your small branches so that it doesn't look like a bulb. You must be wondering why I've left these bits. These are going to be driftwood. You've seen in some bonsai they've got driftwood,
Okay.
you know, like dead wood.
Yeah.
So I'm going to introduce you to the making of jins. They're called jins. Jin is a Japanese word meaning referring to the sky or heaven or something. So that is what we're going to use
Wow,
those
that's
branches for.
You're a hairdresser too, so
Yeah,
you
I
can do
can, yeah.
You can do this.
But I don't get so happy. That's my problem. I tend to get a bit like, oh, where did I mark it?
Okay. You see how much we've taken off? I've taken off more than half the tree already, huh? More than half. So this point at which I need to do some wiring. A little thicker than
It's
that.
quite chunky, actually. That's okay.
There's some very subtle
Yeah.
differences
Yeah.
between the grades of wire.
It's triple, it's
Yeah.
value.
Whenever I wire, I always think of the two branch principle. So I'm always looking to see how I can get the two branches to be wired together. So these two will be wired together. And I'm wiring it because I want to make it a bit flatter. Another common question people is how long should the wire be kept on? That varies, but as a rule we keep the wire on for about 1 or 2 years. The younger the tree, the quicker it sets. The older the tree, it's stiffer, so it doesn't set so easily. So see what I'm doing, making the branches lie flat like that. So that's going to be wired flat. That one probably I don't need. Deciding what to cut and what to leave, you'll find comes with experience. So don't get too worried about that. So these will be wired flat like this. Now to not keep you in suspense, I'm going to show you how we make the driftwood or gins. I quarter the branch. So that it doesn't look just a straight cut, but it's going to appear broken. So this is where you can use all sorts of tools and devices to get that effect. The thicker the branch, the more convincing the gin becomes. But if it's very thin, it doesn't look so interesting, but nonetheless I'm still showing you the principles of doing it. And basically the gin pliers simply crushes the bark, and even if you just take the bark off without refining the end, it still looks quite convincing. So when you see all this white driftwood, this is how it's done. Not all of it is natural. Sometimes it's natural, but very often a lot of the gin effects are created artificially like this. So you can go throughout the tree and remove the bark and you get the gin effects. You like it so far?
Yeah, lovely.
Mm-hmm. So you see how I've flattened that pad? Then I can flatten this. Now I'm going to get you to do the rest, okay? So you get
Oh dear. Oh dear.
you're going to do wiring, huh?
Yeah.
So that and that can be wired. You see how interesting this project is?
Yeah.
That can be done. Can you see it now? It's looking like a big tree rather than just a blob. So these two can be wired. You're always looking for situations where you can find two branches to wire with one piece of wire. I need like 2.5 mil. So I hope this gives you a flavor of how interesting the more advanced bonsai can be. So the trick is to have some idea of vision of what you want to achieve, and then the rest is simply finding the means to achieve it. There are certain design principles, and the most basic design principle is that most bonsais are triangular in shape. If you create a triangular shape, you cannot go far wrong. I know that there are exceptions, but by and large, the design and shapes of most bonsai is triangular. However you look at it, it's always triangular. Like this one, for instance. You see the triangular shape there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this one, I'm going to make it more of a triangle rather than a rounded blob. I'm spacing the branches so that there is space between the different layers. Now this is similar to the Christmas tree that I did. In fact, that very first one I made, I sold it only the other day. Back in the pandemic, at the start of pandemic, I did the Christmas tree bonsai. And the number of rude comments I got from people, especially the establishment, saying that you can't make bonsai with a Christmas tree. And yet after that, after I did it, everyone is copying me and doing Christmas tree bonsai. This is a Christmas tree, isn't it? You can buy these over Christmas.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, in some of these supermarkets, they sell it for about £5-7 for little ones. They put some snow or dust on it.
Yeah.
They look like snow on the trees. And after Christmas, they're thrown out. If they're not sold, they get thrown away. So if you hang around outside the supermarket, you may get it cheap. I shouldn't be telling you all this. I won't make a living. You see how I'm creating the space between the pads, huh? And this one I also need to wire flat like this. So you can see how the shape is coming, huh?
Yeah.
So these will be wired. I need to do something. This is going to be quite tricky. I might need to do some drastic bending to that. We will see, but I'll get you to do this first. So again, so we've wired quite a lot. We've wired the apex too. And all we need is to create a little more apex there, and the tree is virtually done.
And from a blob into a tree.
So you can see how much we've taken off. You judge, you can video this?
Mm-hmm.
What do you reckon? I reckon it's about 70%.
Yep. Yeah.
Easily 70%. So again, there are certain basic principles. I've tried to show the trunk, which is the main thing. And once you've shown the trunk, we then create space between branches, different layers of branches. And at the end of the day, we need to have a conical shape. So let's see if we met all the different criteria. So this is the front. You can see the trunk, whereas before you couldn't see the trunk. We've created space between different layers, and the overall shape is conical. With this broad spreading base, and that's the amount we've taken off. So I hope you've enjoyed this.
Brilliant. Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Brilliant.
Can home in and see some of the detail. We've got to refine the gins, but we even created some gins there. I think there's some more gins to remove. You can remove the bark of that, remove the bark of that, complete that. There you go.
Brilliant.
Don't forget to feed the tree.